I text her again. Want to grab coffee? The words feel heavy, weighted down by hope and fear. I hit send and watch the screen as if it holds the answer to my existence. A few minutes pass. My heart beats louder than usual, a steady drum in the silence of my room. I know she's there, probably scrolling through her own messages, glancing at mine, the familiarity of my name flashing on her screen. I wonder what she thinks. Does she see me? Is she considering it? Or does she quickly dismiss the idea of meeting up like an unwanted advertisement? The familiar vibration breaks the silence. Her response pops up. Thanks, but not today. Just like that. It's polite, but it hurts. I want to take that no and crush it into pieces, but I can't react. I play it cool. No worries. Maybe another time. I expect nothing and yet feel the sting of disappointment. I already know the outcome, but a part of me clings to the hope that one day she might say yes. She never does. I saw her earlier today, laughter trailing behind her as she walked, surrounded by friends who illuminated her with their energy. I lingered in the background, pretending to be engrossed in a book, concealing my insect-like fascination with everything she does. She tilted her head back, her laughter ringing out, pure and melodic, a stark contrast to the growing discontent within me. I watch closely. The way she moves, the way she flips her hair, all the little gestures that seem casual but are anything but to me. They're pieces of a jigsaw puzzle I long to solve, though I can never quite find the right connection. As I walk home, the twilight wrapping around me like a cloak, I replay the scenes in my mind. I build scenarios of her smiling at me, her eyes lighting up. I imagine what I would say that would spark that moment. The car lights streak past, illuminating the pavement but not my thoughts. I feel the throbbing sense of rejection crystallizing inside. It's like a stone, heavy and unyielding. I wonder if she knows the power she holds. When I finally settle into bed, I stare at the ceiling, my mind racing. What does she think of me? What keeps her from giving me a chance? I have so many questions, each bouncing around, persistent little nuisances that refuse to let me sleep. I wonder if she would change if she ever really saw me. I'm not asking for much, just a moment, a laugh, a gesture of recognition. Just something to pull me from the shadows into her light. It's a strange dance we perform. I make my advances, and she retreats. Always the polite recourse. Kindness can only go so far. She doesn't need to explain herself. I can read her through the lines of what she says and doesn't say. Her boundaries are firm, yet tauntingly enticing. I'm left straddling the line between fascination and frustration. Each time I venture closer, it's like stepping toward an invisible wall. I feel it push back against me, firm and impenetrable. And then it happens. The text that shocks my system. She sends the message. My ex says you're too basic for the life I want. And honestly, he's right. I read the words over and over, each reread exacerbating the pain, stabbing deeper into the vulnerable places I tried to shield. Basic, the word ripples through me, a visceral invasion that twists in my gut. What does it even mean? Am I that forgettable to her? Just another face in the crowd, a passing thought, a polite reply with no weight. I can't shake how her words echo, mocking my yearning. I thought there was something special here, a connection, but perhaps it's all in my head. My fingers hover over the screen, aching to respond, to fight back, to contest her harsh judgment. But I don't. I can't be the angry person in this scenario. Instead, I push my phone away, staring into the darkness of my room as if it could swallow my disappointment whole. Thoughts spiral deeper into an abyss. I'd meant to express my feelings gently, yet the reality crashed over me. I'm nothing, just a placeholder in her life, something she can push aside without a second glance. That night, I'm left grappling with the pain of rejection, contemplating where it all went wrong. I can't help but dissect my own actions, my words. Each move feels like a step into deeper water, drowning me in confusion and uncertainty. I replay every interaction we've had. Was I too eager? Too persistent? Maybe it was my jokes. I wonder which one fell flat in her eyes, where the cracks first appeared in my veneer of confidence. Time passes, and sleep evades me, replaced by a creeping sense of obsession. I can feel it solidifying within me. Instead of fading with time, my desire to understand her intensifies, becoming a fixation. Her movements, her gestures, the subtleties in her tone, each slices through the murky waters I tread. I see her in the coffee shop, her eyes flitting over the menu. A flicker of uncertainty in her expression when she glances back at her friends. And sure, if she joined their laughter today, I want to be closer, To break past the polite facade, we maintain the barriers that imprison me just outside of her reality. I test my boundaries, progressively inching closer toward her with every encounter. I start noticing the little things, the way she keeps her phone against her ear like a lifeline, the way she crinkles her nose when she's frustrated. Those details matter. They build a narrative in my mind, a tapestry of her persona I long to explore. All I need is an invitation. I try again, with a new text, one that feels less like an interruption and more like an extension of our shared world. Hey, there's a concert this weekend. It could be fun. Want to go? I boost myself with courage, though I know the answer. I brace for impact. The response trickles in, and it's what I expected. Thanks, but I can't. She can't. Because she has other priorities, a life weaving in a direction separate from mine. I know that I'm not a part of her narrative. I keep punctuating our dynamic with my attempts, hoping each text will yield a different result. My heart sinks lower each time. I can feel the pulse of frustration in my veins, but I don't relent. I can't. I'm trapped in this relentless cycle of hope and disappointment. My thoughts swirl like weather patterns above my head. I think about what she said. I treat it as a puzzle I want to solve. What defines basic? I wonder if that means I lack depth or dimension. Do I seem too ordinary? I catch myself tweaking small things about my style, the way I present myself. It's like I'm preparing for an audition, desperate to win her approval. I stare at my reflection, studying the details. How can I transform this image into something that will move her? I want to change. I want her to turn and see me a distinct piece in her life's narrative, not just a blank canvas. I face her again, more determined, but the indifference burns deep. My heart skitters between fascination and resentment, and I can feel the walls I've built around myself vibrating with the tension of our growing distance. Each night I return home, clutching the remnants of our interactions, replaying them on loop as if they were spoken in an ancient tongue only I understand. I become the scholar of our dynamic, holding on to every nuance, dissecting every syllable. It's a futile endeavor, but I can't escape this feeling that there's more to her than what she reveals. I feel like I'm unraveling a mystery, one that holds me captive and tempts me with the promise of closeness. Yet, every step I take forward is met with a firm withdrawal. The boundaries she's willing to maintain tightening around us. I'm left grappling with unanswered questions and the suffocating weight of my obsession. Still, I persist, holding on to the flicker of hope that one day she recognizes me, that she turn, and I'll finally break through. Each time I watch her from afar, I imagine inching closer, waiting for the right moment to shift the tides of rejection into something new, a possibility, however faint, that she might see me as more than just a basic note in her life. I wake up, and before I even get out of bed, she is already in my head. I can't escape the thoughts that swirl like leaves in the wind. The morning light filters through my window, illuminating the silence of my room. I reach for my phone, scrolling through our messages again. The sharpness of her last response stings. To basic, it isn't just the words. It's her tone, her dismissal. I want to dissect it further, to unravel her meaning, but I know that's a futile venture. I force myself out of bed. The old routine begins. My mind is half awake but fully consumed by her presence. I step into my living space, the cluttered remains of my life echoing my mind. Breakfast feels like a task I only perform to keep up appearances. I mechanically prepare my coffee, letting the rich aroma fill the air, a small comfort in the shadow of my thoughts. I decide to step outside, to breathe and to break the monotony that has coiled itself around me. I stroll through my neighborhood like a wanderer, the mundane sights blending into a blurry backdrop. My eyes scan for her. I shouldn't be doing this. Watching her from a distance feels like a double-edged sword. It cuts me in ways I can't articulate. But I can't resist the draw. I find a bench outside a cafe she frequents. Knowing her routine is set like clockwork, the hours blur together as I sit, pretending to read a book, but my mind is far from the prose before me. Her presence dances like a mirage in my thoughts. I quickly glance at the time. It's 8 a.m. She usually arrives shortly after. I feel a rush of anticipation. I don't know why I chose this spot, but it feels like a pilgrimage, the place where I might catch a fleeting glimpse of the person who consumes my mind. Time seems to stretch. As her predictable silhouette rounds the corner, my breath virtually hitches in my throat. There she is, her hair, a cascade of warmth. Her step, a small rhythm I've memorized. I watch as she fumbles with her phone, an endearing clumsiness that somehow humanizes her. She walks past the cafe with her earbuds snug, seemingly lost in a world I can only access through a glass pane. Today, She's wearing a soft-colored sweater that hangs loosely, casual yet achingly beautiful. I turn my gaze back to my book, trying to shake off the intensity of my thoughts. The frustration lingers just beneath the surface. Why do I feel this way? Why do I sit and wait for moments like this, only to retreat back into the shadows? It seems like an endless cycle, an emotional loop that cycles through hope, pity, and frustration until exhaustion overtakes me. As she enters the cafe, I feel it wash over me, a mix of failure and fascination. I can't approach her here, not today. Perhaps I'll wait until she's outside again. The thought of walking up to her sends my heart racing. I imagine stepping into her world, but it feels impossibly distant. I drift through the day, fluctuations of longing and frustration washing over me. The hours bleed into one another, and before I know it, I'm back at my apartment, replaying my encounters with her, like an artist obsessively refining a brushstroke. Details illuminate themselves in my mind. How she raises her brow when she's engaged in conversation. The slight upward tilt of her chin when she disagrees. The nuances that, cumulatively, mean she's not just a pretty face. Days turn into a week. I retreat into this quiet fixation. I list my observations, combining pieces of her narrative that I glean from a distance, scribbling them in my notebook. I'm no longer a passive participant. I'm an observer, a chronicler of the life unfolding before me. I take note of the times she smiles, how she laughs, and how the cadence in her voice shifts depending on who she speaks with. I begin to establish a crude schedule. She's up by 7:30 a.m., walks to the cafe by 8:10 a.m., heads to her job shortly after. Her lunch hour falls predictably, and evenings see her retreating into her apartment, often adorned in comfortable clothing. I become an unwilling archivist, documenting these fleeting moments, trying to decode an existence that feels just out of reach. Each day, I take my position across the street, diverting my gaze with fleeting distractions. My book, a random podcast I pretend to follow, yet I'm transfixed by her life unfolding like a movie before my eyes. I read the pages but absorb nothing. The details gradually fade. Instead, I construct a map of her world, a trajectory defined by her habits, routine interactions, and the ephemeral light she brings. Each mundane moment I record breathes life into my obsession. Evening falls, and my thoughts drift endlessly. I find myself gripping the edge of my bed, the weight of my fixation anchoring me. I consider the implications of it all. Why does my heart race at the thought of her? There's no rational explanation. Am I drowning in my own desires for someone who will never return them? I recount our conversations, each one a note played in an unfinished symphony. They're perfectly polite yet starkly distant, a reminder of the barrier that separates us. I question whether she senses my presence the way I feel it in my bones. I wonder if, in moments of reflection, she even thinks of me, this basic ghost that lingers at the edges of her life. I know her ex looms in her mind, that specter casting shadows over my attempts. Basic. I repeat the word like a mantra, trying to strip it of its power. That defensiveness settles over me like an old coat. I grow weary of being pushed away by a label I can't define. It grips me, unease at the edges of my consciousness, nagging me to conduct some kind of self-evaluation. I fumble to reconstruct myself, crafting a persona I think might intrigue her. Is it even possible to evolve into something beyond this fixation that ensnares me? One evening blurs into another, and as the sun sets, I picture her in a cozy blanket, surrounded by her books, her genuine laughter suddenly a distant echo. I imagine her checking her phone out of habit, glancing at our conversations, or more likely, mine recycled into an unwanted pile. Frustration brews deeper. I crave connection but instead find myself wrestling these thoughts alone. I tell myself I am not stalking. I'm observing a peculiar distinction that tugs at my conscience. I suppress my own disbelief, crafting an outline of events, explanations for why I'm drawn to her. As I peel back the layers of quiet energy surrounding her, I see not just who she is, but also who I am becoming, the shadow to her light, tracing her moves without her knowing. The obsession solidifies into something tangible, an entity pressing against my ribs. I'm tucked into this persistence, both fascinated and trapped by my desire to unlock her universe. I can't turn away from the pull, even though it rattles me from the inside out. My life narrows down to the minutiae of her days, the echo of laughter that spirals through my mind, and the ache of unreciprocated feelings clawing at my core. I am becoming lost in her world, a soft lullaby that carries me away, whispering to me about dreams and unfulfilled connections. And yet, even amidst this fixation, I fear I'm losing touch with reality. only tethered to her moments through a lens I have constructed for myself, the only view that matters. The silence breaks, and soon, I'm watching her through a window that reflects both her solitude and my own. In this strange, unsettling calm, I remain hidden, a phantom fixed in her shadows, measuring the weight of my thoughts against the life I long to inhabit with her. I'm just observing, I remind myself, but the truthful portion feels less convincing each day. My gaze sharpens, focusing on the quirks that make her human. Her laughter a soft echo that bounces between us. A connection I craft with glances but never touch. The boundaries I crave to dissolve only fortify with time. As I hover between fascination and anguish, I find deep solace in the quiet, her existence igniting a storm within me, while I remain steadfastly cemented in place. The distance weighs heavily on me, and the spiral I've wrapped around myself tightens further. I am a complex tapestry woven of her, haunted by uninvited thoughts, while she remains blissfully unaware, wrapped in her own narrative. The morning light breaks through my window, dispersing shadows across my room. I wake up with that same feeling of anticipation I've grown accustomed to over these last few weeks. Yet today feels different, tinged with something I can't quite place. I rise, the routine unfolding automatically, but there's an odd heaviness in the air that seems to cling to every action. Coffee brews, and I mindlessly move through the motions, mind wandering back to her. The thought of her eclipses everything else. I replay her laughter in my mind, how it rings clear and sweet, echoing even in the silence of my own space. The way she moves, how her hair sways when she walks. I've carefully documented these details, each one reinforcing the grip she has over me. I step outside, the sunlight warm on my skin as I make my way to that familiar bench. It's become a part of my routine, a ritual entangled with hope, a flimsy tether binding me to her world. I settle in, pretending to read as I wait for her, the anticipation bubbling beneath my skin. Today, I feel as if I'm balanced on a precipice. It's sometime around 8 a.m. when I see her silhouette in the distance. She approaches, the gentle rise and fall of her movements weaving a rhythm I've memorized. Yet something about today feels different. My heart races as she draws closer, a sense of urgency clawing at my insides. Does she feel it too? She passes by the cafe, just as she always does, but this time, she doesn't glance in my direction. Instead, she keeps her eyes cast down, her phone clutched tightly in her hand, oblivious to the world spinning around her. I strain to pick up any hint of her usual magnetism, but it feels draped in shadows today, a gauzy veil between us. The urgency surges. She misses the morning light that fills the cafe, the laughter that wafts through the doors. As I rise to follow her, instinct kicks in. I move closer, heart pounding, but an invisible barrier hangs in the air. Instead of stepping forward, I shrink back. It's as if I'm caught in a moment of stillness, unable to breach the invisible divide that's long separated us. I feel my breath quicken as I watch her slow her stride, stop, and glance at something, maybe a text. For a fleeting moment, she appears contemplative, searching for answers in the screen lit up before her. The sensation begins to twist in my stomach. I want to reach out, to touch her arm and offer some casual line that will pierce through her haze. But I don't. I remain on my side of the street, an observer, grounded by this silent pact I've formed with her. Then she looks up. My heart stops. For a split second, I think she might see me, really see me, recognize the shadowed figure hidden in the periphery. But her gaze cuts through the air like a knife, landing somewhere past me, lost in another world I can only perceive from a distance. I lean back, the breath I was holding slipping from my lungs, realization settling sharply. She doesn't notice me, and perhaps she never has. With that thought, the heaviness grows. I can't bear to feel so inadequate, so distanced from the essence of who she is. I wonder if she's ever thought of our conversations, pondered the creeping inquiries that flicker through her mind, perhaps the ones that kept her up at night, the doubts that haunt her. But why would she? I am just a face on the periphery, a specter in her narrative. As she slips into her usual routine, I notice the subtle changes, the way her movements sharpen. Today, her face carries an air of resignation. Is that what I've become? A shadow of someone who once desired connection, now little more than an echo of unreturned feelings. The sun climbs higher, and I can feel the weight of the day pressing down on me. I think about the hours I spent crafting intricate scenarios in my mind, each one collapsing in the face of reality. I've dissected her movements, her patterns, and yet, I can't decipher the most critical piece, what lies within her heart. I fall back on the bench, staring vacantly. The world rushes by, and I feel like a ghost who couldn't leave even if I tried. The laughter from the cafe mixes with the noise of the cars, creating a symphony of disconnection. With every moment, I fade further, consumed by my fixation instead of truly living. What am I even doing? I feel lost, alone. There were days when the thrill of capturing her routine seemed enough, but now, it feels like a dull blade. What do I want from this her acknowledgement? A connection? I want to feel something real, something beyond longing and silence. I want to break this cycle, yet I'm trapped. As she finally disappears into the bustling crowd, I sit there, feeling the tension in my chest. The reality of it all sinks in. She's moving on, living her life, while I hover like a drone over borrowed moments, lost in a haze of fantasies that can never come true. This realization cuts deeper than any text she has ever sent back. I'm not just basic. I'm invisible. I pull out my phone, contemplating sending one last message that would finally breach the chasm between us. I just want to know you. The words sit heavy, taunting me, but in reality, would it change anything? Would she even care? The weight of that question crushed me. I can imagine the answer echoing back, a stark reminder of my place. After what feels like an eternity, I let my phone fall back to my lap. I can't do it. I refuse to let myself go down that road one more time. This relentless cycle of hope and heartache has to end. I take a deep breath, feeling a tremor of resolution building within me. With a heavy heart, I stand and make my way back home, but it isn't the same. As I walk, I think of all the details I have cherished, the things that once brought me solace in my solitude. I see her in everything: the way the sunlight streams down the street, the way laughter echoes through the air. But I know I have to disconnect, to sever the bond I've built in silence. Abandoning my fixation won't be easy. I feel the land shift beneath my feet, a terrain too familiar and yet suddenly barren. Still, a layer of acceptance settles over me, a flicker of empowerment against the shadow I've cultivated. When I finally reach my apartment, I gaze at the walls that have witnessed my obsession, my longing. I see the notes I've made, the sketches of her routines, of moments I've grasped at, now scattered across my table like debris in a storm. They tug at my heart, but their power diminishes in realization. This is her life, not mine. I've been a spectator, desperately longing to be more, but knowing I cannot intrude on a world that doesn't belong to me. The silence that fills my room now feels different. It's no longer heavy with longing, but rather a quiet sigh of relief. I step toward the window, taking in the expanse of the world outside, the movement, the chaos, the vibrancy of lives intertwined in ways I no longer need to dissect. I watch as people pass beneath me, living their stories, each one unique, filled with endless possibilities. And in that moment, something shifts within me. I can begin to let go. Not entirely, not yet, but I can start to chart a new course. I'm not just a shadow in her daylight. I am a person too, capable of experiencing life beyond this fixation. As I close my notebook and tuck it away, I focus instead on the world unfolding before my eyes. I take a deep breath, letting the fresh air fill my lungs, feeling the weight begin to lift. Today marks a new beginning, however small. I'm ready to step beyond the quiet fixation and into the unknown, to reach for something different, something that belongs to me, my own story to tell. So, I stand by the window, the sun warming my face, a sense of calm washing over me, and contemplate all the beautiful noise of life that awaits.